When the United States of America declared its independence in 1776, no one expected things to become this difficult. They had shouted, "We will be free," but Britain did not welcome this at all. During the 7-Year War that followed, the American people struggled with poverty, and most soldiers didn't even have proper boots or weapons. At that time, Britain had one of the strongest armies in the world, yet under the leadership of George Washington, the Americans never backed down. In 1781, the British Army surrendered at Yorktown. With the Treaty of Paris signed in 1783, America was officially recognized as an independent nation. But there was one big problem. The country was free, but the people inside it were not. Because slavery still existed, and millions lived their lives in chains. In the North, some states had begun to abolish slavery, but in the South, enormous cotton plantations, harsh laws, and the slave trade were growing more powerful every day. The country was divided, half free, half pro-slavery. And each year, the tension grew stronger. And in this chaotic, young, troubled country, a baby opened his eyes to the world. February 12, 1809. In a tiny log cabin in Kentucky, a child with no wealth, no privilege, and no advantages was born. His name was Abraham Lincoln. One day, he would hold this divided nation together, end slavery, and bring real freedom to America. A child growing up in poverty. Lincoln grew up in a small one-room cabin. The family produced their own food, and his mother sewed their clothes. His childhood passed with heavy labor in the fields and forests. When he was just 9 years old, his mother became ill and passed away. This loss opened a deep wound in Lincoln's heart. During these harsh years, one thing kept him going: his love of learning. There wasn't even a proper school where he lived. When wandering teachers came, he received lessons for a few weeks, then months of emptiness with no education. Lincoln had less than 1 year of formal schooling in his entire life. But this never discouraged him. He borrowed books from neighbors. With no paper, he practiced by writing on wooden boards. He read for hours by firelight, the Bible, fables, history, law. He was curious about everything and wanted to learn everything. A new mother, a new hope. When his father remarried, Lincoln's life gained a ray of light. His stepmother Sarah loved him like her own child. She encouraged his interest in books. Abraham was different. He wanted to learn, she would say. The family later moved to Indiana, then to Illinois. With each move, Lincoln worked harder, cutting wood, working in the fields, doing heavy labor all day long. That's how he earned the nickname Rail Splitter. At age 19, he made his first long journey. He traveled down the Mississippi River to New Orleans to transport goods. What he saw there changed his life. Slave markets. Families torn apart, people sold like property. The pain he witnessed planted the seeds of his hatred toward slavery. First steps into politics, losses and lessons. At age 23, he ran for office for the first time, but lost. Most people would give up after such a defeat, but Lincoln did the opposite. "I need to prepare myself better," he said. He read more, worked harder, and practiced speaking constantly. In 1834, he ran again, and this time he won. He served 4 terms in the Illinois legislature. He worked to build roads, bridges, and schools for the people. He spoke openly against slavery, calling it inhumane, even though doing so was dangerous at the time. Meanwhile, he began studying law. There was no university. He read the books himself, learned on his own, and passed the bar exam in 1836, becoming a lawyer. Rising to the national stage, Lincoln versus Douglas. By the 1850s, America was falling apart. There were violent clashes between the North and South. In 1858, Lincoln ran for Senate against the famous politician Stephen Douglas. The Lincoln-Douglas debates became legendary. Thousands gathered in fields and squares to hear them speak. Lincoln argued that slavery was immoral, saying a nation could not survive as half slave, half free. A house divided against itself cannot stand. He lost the election, but the entire country came to know his name. Newspapers published his speeches. Lincoln had become a national figure. 1860, the road to the presidency. In 1860, the Republican Party chose Lincoln as its presidential candidate. His message was clear. He would not abolish slavery in states where it already existed, but he would stop its expansion into new territories. This gave hope to the North but created fear in the South. And on November 6, 1860, Lincoln was elected the 16th President of the United States. But this victory marked the beginning of the road to civil war, as Southern states began to secede and formed the Confederacy. Civil war erupts. On April 12, 1861, Confederate cannons fired upon Fort Sumter. The Civil War had officially begun. Lincoln was not a soldier, yet suddenly he was the commander of a massive army. The first years were extremely difficult. The North suffered defeat after defeat. Lincoln spent nights in the War Department, studying maps, reading messages, arguing with generals. At the same time, he carried the emotional weight of the war. He visited hospitals, spoke with wounded soldiers, and wrote condolence letters to families. The end of slavery, the Emancipation Proclamation. Finally, Lincoln made his great decision. January 1, 1863. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring all enslaved people in the rebellious Southern states free. This did not end slavery instantly, but it changed the entire purpose of the war. Now the war was to preserve the Union and to free millions of people. Gettysburg, the turning point. In July 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg changed the war. The three-day battle cost over 50,000 casualties. The North won, but the price was devastating. Later that year, Lincoln delivered one of the most powerful speeches in history at Gettysburg. Only 2 minutes long, yet it revived the nation. A government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Re-election and victory. In 1864, the war continued. People were exhausted and hopeless, until General Sherman captured Atlanta. The victory changed everything, and Lincoln was re-elected. In April 1865, the South's strongest general, Robert E. Lee, surrendered. The war was over. The Union was saved. And slavery would now be abolished forever. The end of a hero. But Lincoln could not enjoy the victory. Only 5 days after the war ended, on April 14, 1865, he was shot in Ford's Theatre. He died the next morning. Millions mourned in the streets. The world grieved the leader who had fought for freedom. Born in poverty, self-educated, and determined, this man became a legend. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to discover more hidden stories from history. History is not only about wars. Sometimes one person's determination can change the destiny of an entire nation. See you in the next video.